Okay, we are recording. Welcome, everybody. My name is Joseph. I'm with Step Into Vision. And this is kind of the first community meeting around the Shared Visions project. Um, Forgive me if I'm a little distracted. I'm going to kind of watch the waiting room and let people in. So the first, we're going to record this part and just post it for all the folks who can't be here today. We got people all over the world. We got people doing other stuff on the weekend. Um, so, I think there'll maybe 10 to 20 of us today and another 40 or 50 people who can't be here. We are also working on setting up some meetings that work for other time zones and other regions around the world. Um, so stay tuned in the announcements channel for that. More information about that coming soon. So for this meeting, I want to do maybe a 10-minute kind of just tour of the project real quick and get that out in the video first so people can just grab the video, get that part first. And then after that, we can just kind of hang out and talk ideas for the project, get to know each other, talk about, our experience with Vision Pro and Visualize development and uh, anything that kind of ties into that. So let me pull up my little agenda and actually I'll just share my screen. Okay, so you all know that we're here for the Shared Visions project. I've got a little agenda. We've obviously all found the Discord group. Um, Let me just make sure I can still see this while we're talking. All right, so we are recording. I always have to do that. If I don't actually have a checklist item called "We are recording," I will forget to hit record. Um, so just a quick tour of the Discord. The Discord is mainly just a place for us to collaborate and work together. So I am totally up for using this however we kind of see fit. Um, I just spent some time throwing together as many channels as I could think, and I grouped them into kind of four main teams plus some project support stuff. So the story team would be our interviewers, writers, and translators. Um, our video editing team is also as well as like the people helping with capture, people helping like get video from one app to another, from one part to another. That'll probably be the most technical team. Our app dev team will have a little bit of like creating some assets for the app, designing the UX of the app, and the actual development stuff, as well as kind of an administrative team for publishing the app. Who's going to publish it on what app store account, what's the website going to be, what is our social media presence, things like that. And then we've also got some project support roles. I put directors here from now, but that should probably be its own category at some point. We actually had a lot of people sign up to be directors, so it'll be interesting to see kind of what direction that takes. Um, a lot of project management folks as well, and the team leads will just be kind of a place for the team leads to discuss amongst themselves how they can coordinate across teams and kind of support everybody in the project. So if you want me to add additional channels to discuss specific things, let me know. But I would try to keep this particular server about the shared vision project. Like think of this more of a temporary workspace as we're making the project rather than a permanent community. If you want to be in a permanent community, I would encourage you to join the Step Into Vision server. I will post a link to that in the Zoom chat if you're not already there, and I'll also post that in uh, the Shared Visions Discord for everybody. So let me just throw that link in here for now. I think a lot of you are already in the Step Into Vision server, but this is our other server. It's much more dev focused, but we have a few other topics here. We've got a place to share your apps and get test flight help and several categories and things like that. But for the Shared Vision project, let's kind of treat this as like a collaborative workspace. You will notice many of you have roles associated with you. So if your name is still in black text, it means I haven't actually assigned you any roles yet. If you, the roles are based uh, largely off of the sign up sheet that you filled out. So any of the skills that you checked. those are the various roles that we're assigning here. And the roles don't get you special permission to anything. Everybody can see the whole project. The roles are mainly just there so we can say, we can, at all directors or things like that, at all writers. Um, to really just kind of like, if we're trying to organize a meeting of just the video editors, we can just ping all the editors at once, and anybody who's working on that role can have that. Um, so if you don't have any roles associated with your names, or you want your roles changed, reach out to me or Jimmy, and we can do that. It's really just a matter of selecting from the lists and customizing it. Let's see what else we got. The teams and kind of what it means to be a team leader. So I think this will probably be a larger discussion for another day. But when I think of a team leader for this project, I don't necessarily think of people who are telling others what to do. I think the team leader roles are much more of a support role of someone who can make sure everybody has what they need and is communicating with other folks in the project. Because this is kind of a global decentralized project, we're never really going to all be able to meet at the same time. So it's going to be important to just have multiple people who can communicate together, and kind of bring the message from one team to another. So I don't necessarily think we'll have like one person in charge of the app that's telling a bunch of developers and designers what to do. I think it will be much more likely that we'll have a team that are coordinating those folks and working with the video team, the story team, to make sure that their needs are being heard by everybody on the app team. So that's kind of what I'm hoping. If you would like, I know a lot of you signed up for team lead on the forum. We'll have a separate discussion about who wants to lead each team and what you think you're suited for. We may have multiples. But yeah, we'll kind of figure that out as we go. Some of the stuff may be very specific, like we may need more of a benevolent dictator type of team leader for like, video editing. Like we don't necessarily want to have 20 different editing environments. Um, we may want to have a couple people take lead on that and say, okay, we're going to use DaVinci and Final Cut and things like that. So some of the other stuff we will need to do. Um, I guess I created the Discord because I thought it was, it's free, easy thing for us all to have access to and be able to keep in touch with each other. If Discord doesn't work for you all, I'm open to other suggestions. I don't know of a great way to get us all working in the same place. Um, I mean, there's obviously the only other alternative I can think of is Slack, but I don't think that's really any better or worse. Um, and I didn't really want to just send a ton of emails. So other stuff we'll need to figure out as we go is like how are we going to share resources together, particularly getting our files, our captured video files, getting those to our editing team, and the editing team getting that stuff to wherever we're hosting it or to the app team. We'll probably need some collaborative docs, so whether Google Docs or Notions or uh, stuff like that. The code stuff is probably the easiest. We can just make a GitHub repository or several repositories to do our prototypes and the actual code base for the app. That stuff is pretty well a solved problem. So that's just a bit of infrastructure updates. No decisions particularly being made, but just kind of those are things we need to figure out as a community. And I do want to maybe just as a quick digression, I really am thinking of this as a community project. This is not me running a project telling you all what to do. I do not want to do that. As far as I'm concerned, my role is gathering the community and trying to keep people motivated and working on this. But this is not my project. I am not necessarily the publisher of this project. This is, who publishes this or what entity publishes it is a topic for discussion by this community. So let me share my vision for the project, and then we'll see kind of where that goes over the next couple of months. So I kind of think of the app right now as two distinct things. The main thing that I'm calling shared visions is a 20-minute to 40 minutes, maybe 60-minute immersive experience. I think probably that 30-minute thing is probably ideal, but we'll see. But the kind of the root of the idea that I had was Apple has support for tons of different media formats across different we can do 2D video, we can do spatial video, we can do a lot of other things. Um, Apple Immersive Video, some 180 and 360 formats, some action camera, and we can quickly switch from one to the other. Even in like the 2D frames themselves, we can actually change aspect ratio as needed. Um, so the idea is to let people capture with whatever they're comfortable with and what they have to. So I don't have one of those Blackmagic immersive cameras. I'm not going to be buying one of those. But I do have an iPhone 17 Pro. I can do some spatial capture on here. I could do some persona capture in the headset. I could maybe meet up with some folks in town and we could, interview each other. So that's the idea is everybody kind of submit in your given format, and then we will use the Xcode app and show different players at different times, kind of on a scripted timeline style of interface. So it would still probably be a play pausable experience, but it's not going to be a single video file. It's going to be an app that you go into an immersive experience, you start experiencing it, and sometimes you're looking at a frame, sometimes you're looking at a world, sometimes you may have multiple windows open at once. So that's just kind of the vision that I had for that. Um, I think in terms of the story we tell with that, I think we should tell the story of the Vision OS community, why we're here, what gets us excited, what we're building toward, that type of thing. I don't think it should be a promotion of Apple Vision Pro. We don't need to make a commercial for Apple Vision Pro, and I don't think we need to make a commercial about our apps or businesses. I think we can talk about those, but I don't think every one of those segments should just be us hyping our own stuff. I think it should be more of like, what is the motivation for even making that thing? Um, so that's the first section. The other section is where I think we could do much more deep dives into individuals. So the profiles slash stories section, where we could have, I'm looking at Mike in the Zoom window. We could pick on Mike and say, you know, let's find out more about Mike. Here's a 15-minute interview with him specifically in one particular format. And those presentations may be a little less polished than the full version of shared visions, but you could get a longer video to tell your whole story of like, this is how I got into iOS, this is how I got into XR, and when the two met, things like that. Um, so that is kind of the spiel I had for the top today. Some other stuff for future discussion. We've got team leads. We're also talking about regional leads, so people who can lead these meetings. And by lead, I basically just mean host and get people together. So we'll need someone probably in Europe and someone probably in Oceania or Asia, just kind of have three different regions. We'll need to discuss media rights. When we submit footage to the app, what are we granting to what legal entity? I'm fine with just releasing all of my footage as Creative Commons or MIT licensed stuff, but we'll have to discuss that. Particularly those of you in the video industry, maybe you want to share your perspective on like what are the norms for this type of project. We'll also need to figure out who's publishing the app. We have several companies participating in the project. Is it going to be one of them? Um, is it going to be an individual? Are we going to form a new entity called Shared Visions or some other production studio? That is all up for discussion. We'll need to figure out logistic things like video hosting. We will not be able to put all of the video for this app in the app bundle. Like it's just going to be too big. So I know there are several immersive media hosting companies participating as well. So maybe we'll have some ideas from them. Apple also has a feature called Apple hosted background assets. We may want to look into that as well. So these are all things that we will need to figure out over the next couple of months as we're working together. In the short term, I think our objective should be to get to know each other and refine this idea of the shared visions thing and refine the story project stuff. Um, so I think this is a pretty good idea, but if all of you disagree, then we need to talk and figure out something else. Um, I also think we could probably start prototyping pretty quickly. The app dev team, I think all we would need is maybe a handful of 10-second clips in various formats, and when the app dev team could start prototyping. Um, as far as how the video team gets started, I'm not the best person to say, but we can let them kind of say what they need to get started. The other support teams, um, it just becomes a lot of it is kind of up for discussion. Like, if we need social media presence, are we using the step in division stuff? Or are we using a whole new account? Whatever we want to do there. Um, so yeah, that's my spiel. I know that was very rambly, and hopefully that was helpful for the folks who couldn't be here. And other than that, let's just kind of dive into a group discussion. What do you guys all think?
It's great.
Great. Thank you for kicking us off.
Yeah.
I think it's the longest I've talked all week.
Including yesterday.
In one rip.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm winded. So let me pick on Matt and Paolo. From the video perspective, like what is the minimum amount of effort needed to get you started on kind of creating a pipeline for, the idea would be video clips come out of your teams into the app dev team in some format, probably as URLs in a hosting service. Um,
Oof.
but there's so much to figure out before that. Like, how do we get video to you reliably?
Yes.
What's your workflow going to be? Are you going to be collaborating with each other, or you can be like assigning, like, oh, you take Jimmy's video and you take Mike's video, things like that.
Like like the easiest way to hand over stuff right now are just regular spatial videos and spatial audios because they're just like regular
Mhm.
files and they could be transferred via Google Drive or anywhere. But then when we're talking about immersive videos that are either ProRes, then you're imagining 100 gigs, 200 gigs, 300 gigs, like
Mhm.
Lin Xuan, who has the immersive in his back. I think he would know how large these things are. Like right now, I'm having
Yeah.
two hard drives like swapping back and forth. I'm like editing an
Mhm.
immersive video right now. It's uh
So,
that's why there's acute immersive. Like I know one way. I don't know if it makes sense that if if we approach it from someone edits a segment of their part, they submit to us a final like a final version, and then we can link it into the app instead
mhm.
of us collecting all this footage together. Like we can help you edit the footage. They can send us proxies, like lower versions of those files, and we can edit them,
Okay.
send it back, and then they can just relink them and export it their way. But oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, so I'm guessing the folks who will be, you know, the handful of folks that have the high-end cameras will probably need the least amount of help with video editing. I think those are a lot of video heavy folks. I think it'll be a lot of the folks like me who just like, hey, I captured a 7-minute rambling mess of me talking with spatial capture. Here you go. Can you get 30 seconds of gold out of this? Because I can't. So I
Oh,
think you'll have that type of task.
yeah. Oh, we can do that. Like you can send us a ramble. I think like when you start recording yourself, just make sure you take pauses in between so when we link them together, like the way I edited the trailer, I was pulling out your ums and ahs, which is normally what we do, and then we um try to condense it, but usually like multiple takes. Eventually, like I think I liked your second take because the first take was very open-ended, and the second take you kind of knew where you were going, and that was like easier to
Yeah.
cut.
Yeah. When we recorded
Um,
the trailer, I did the on Zoom camera version of it. And then Paolo was like, "Can you do that again in your headset?" I'm like, "Probably not, but okay, let's try."
But
As a heads up for file transfer, I know it's not a ultra permanent solution like an S3 bucket or something, but I have a static IP at my shop and a server with a couple bays open for drives still. So if we could like community come up with I could RAID 0 a couple 10 terabyte hard drives into that box and supply the IP address. I wouldn't like to make it like publicly accessible, obviously, but I can make some usernames and get a place where we could like dump easily
Sure.
that wasn't costing on a per gigabyte like transfer basis because my gigabyte fiber at the shop doesn't cost, they're not tracking how much I'm using it. So
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
um I'd throw that up for consideration.
and if
Yeah.
there are people on site, like we can meet up, bring your footage, transfer it via SneakerNet. That would always be a nice solution if ever
Mhm.
Ooh, SneakerNet. Haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah, we could just like get a hard drive that we just, we just,
Hmm.
I'll go to the Micro Center and buy it, and I'll record my stuff on it, and then I'll drive over to halfway between me and Jimmy's place and hand off the hard drive, and he'll do his stuff, and it'll only take like
Ooh,
10 years to do the
Just
project
keep
this way.
yeah.
But you know what's interesting is like you get that full chunk of data in some way. I think in some way I think it's faster than sometimes the net, depending if like if we are like granted we have like gigabits of download speed and upload speeds.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, that's so like we can get started getting spatial videos in and then starting to sort those out
Mhm.
and then figuring out those stories as they go. Um, like that's pretty much a good rough start is have a folder, start sorting them in there, and whoever wants to edit a piece, we start doing a checklist for people to like, this is organized, this is clean, and then has this been reviewed by Joseph? Does he like this cut? And then we can just like lock that in, and then we don't revisit that until we figure out what your experience is like. Do you have reality kit components with your video or everything? And then that's when we
Mhm.
start changing converting that ProRes video to the MVH EVC version or something like that.
Mhm. So the other thing that we'll have to have probably a separate discussion about, and we'll need to get more of the writing team and interviewing team. Um, what is going to be the story and structure for that shared visions thing? I really like the idea of like maybe three big questions, 3 to 5 big questions that everybody gets a chance to answer. And maybe that's not literally like, the same, an interviewer asking the question, but more of like, throw the question up on a caption card or something at the beginning of the segment, and then we can hear everybody's take on that position. So like, I'm not really sure what those questions are, but thinking, in terms of time, like how did you how did you make it to this community? What have you been doing since you've been here? Um, sharing about, I think how you got here, sharing a little bit about your past and what led you to the Vision OS or the Apple Vision Pro community, what you're doing here. So like what type of work are you doing? Are you making apps? Are you making content? Are you a power user? Are you spending a lot of time with friends and family? And then what are you building towards or what are you looking forward to? Or that kind of future framed question of like kind of the thing that everybody is always kind of questioning about of like where is this going? XR in general with Apple Vision Pro and the Vision line of products, where is this going and where do you want it to go? Because I think we all have very different assumptions and um, desires for where we want, if we can fast forward to the end of the decade, what does that look like? Um,
If it makes sense, we're going to need a writing team or an editor director team for the main 20, 30, 40 minute narrative.
mhm,
And then you can explore those sub narratives in individual vignettes, which
mhm,
is like what you mentioned, like this is Mike's perspective. We can explore Mike's perspective and Mike's journey
yeah.
uh, in that way. But it can either this project would typically documentaries where I've filmed a couple of them, we usually start out with questions, a goal, and a target. And then when we look at the footage, we end up discovering that another story can emerge
Mhm.
out of the collective answers.
Okay.
And then we restructure the whole thing to see if it still fits. It's because we started with a hypothesis, and
Yeah.
then the hypothesis gets validated by all the answers, and then it's like, oh, it's different now. So it changes as we reach the editing portion of it. So
Yeah. So maybe we don't necessarily need a prescriptive story. We need a story to get people talking. I think we need a few questions to get people answering on screen. Because particularly if you're someone like me and you're going to be recording by yourself, it's hard to just turn a camera on and start talking. You need a couple of cues or um, something to answer. Some of that we could mitigate by just like hopping on to a Zoom or a FaceTime with someone and kind of guiding them through. Um, I think that's going to be helpful. But there's a lot of introverted folks in the team, so some of us are going to need that little kick of like, okay, you really have to get your clip ready. Like, um,
Yeah, having a list of questions will definitely help because then we can all pull from that list if
mm,
we have the opportunity to film at the moment.
mm,
And I was definitely thinking this event at Apple would be a good opportunity to start trying to pull some footage. And Blackmagic, I was talking with them, they're going to be there. They're not bringing any cameras, but they were saying that the Apple team has like a fleet of Ursa immersive cameras, and
mm.
they'll be there. So that would be something else I would love to try and ask. Can we get some footage, from this event that you guys are filming right now? How could we do that?
Yeah,
Would they be willing to share or
definitely ask. Um,
yeah,
Also, like if you're taking your phone or anything else with you, just like if you see anyone else who's in the project, like get 30 seconds with them and just record something.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I've got the DJI 360 Osmo. Get some 360 shots, get some footage where I can. I don't know. I was even thinking of bringing the R5C. Paulo, what are you thinking?
I was thinking about that as well. And I'm like, hey, will they allow me to bring all these like, because they're pretty iffy about bringing like professional camera. So I was just gonna go with the spatial 4K, because if you get
Nice.
that spatial app, you can get 4K spatial recording on your iPhone.
Mm, nice.
Orange Gang.
Orange game.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring a bunch of gear just in case. I want to even try and plug into one of their cameras, like from their SDI port out. I want to get a feed in here.
Just bring
Oh,
bring your Vision Pro with your dev strap hooked up and just walk around with the cable trying to plug it into things.
Yes, totally.
start plugging and downloading everything. Like, oh, I don't know. Oh, airdropping it is what. Quickly.
Yeah, I definitely see like a hard drive that we're sending around to all of us, to collect footage because it's true these files are massive. So
Mm.
a lot of people that might deter them, you know.
Yeah, and I
The
think that we could.
AIVU exports are not that big,
Mhm.
actually, and
Nice.
they look good. And that's what we use to preview in the Vision Pro when we're shooting on the Ursa Cine Immersive. And so you could upload that to Spatial Gen or Acute, but Acute's using Spatial Gen in the
Yeah,
background.
spatial
Oh,
gen.
really?
Did Zach Hanshu join the Discord?
I think he did.
Can't remember.
He's
Because he has, I mean, they have a whole system set up where they can ingest any kind
Yes.
of
He's
Yes.
in.
video format. And I'm hosting 2D, spatial,
Hmm.
and immersive. And so maybe if he's interested, that could be a repository. But I
Mhm.
really like the idea of the spatial video as the primary because it's so small
Mhm.
and it works really well, and everyone knows how to use their phones. And we can give some best practice guidelines too for how to self-record.
Mhm.
But I agree with what you're saying, Joseph. Like it's really helpful to actually have someone on the other end of that conversation. Even if it's the same questions to every person, you even know what questions are going to be coming, just being able to see another person react in real time,
Yeah.
it's invaluable. So maybe we could even all just like volunteer to like listen.
Mhm.
Can I have an idea? Can we do like a one-on-one Zoom call where you don't see the other person on video, but you can just hear them in your ears, or maybe on a speaker or something? So they'll basically give you questions. Your goal is to just like answer them by looking at the camera. And this could
Yeah,
be like a one-on-one Zoom call we can do. It could be very simple.
yeah, little like a director on your shoulder type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that with a client before, and it worked really well. We had them filming on their iPhone, and then the laptop was set up, and we were just kind of like, cheering them on and giving them, uh, enthusiasm that they
Yeah,
needed.
that does help.
Yeah, when we get to the video hosting aspect of the project, one of the things we'll want to figure out is can we download the app, we install it, and we want to before we can press play, can we grab all that and bring it on the device first? The shared vision thing may be made up of 40 or 50 clips at different URLs. We could stream it together, but if the video is loading, that could break the timeline, thing like that. So like, can we have kind of a ingestion part of the app where it's like downloads all the individual clips and gets them ready?
I usually, so what I do is I have a loaded video inside that plays as the intro, and that uses as the starting preload for everything else, which is one way to get it, where we can like do a mix of reality kit experiences and then have it, and then while that's happening, it just preloads
Mm.
those experiences coming in.
Yeah, so I also think the profiles or stories, like the individual section, I think there's a lot of room there for us to do something fun, immersively. Like we could make a little museum of all these individual stories. It doesn't have to be just a window with a bunch of tiles. It could be, an experience that you can go into and wander around and, walk up to Jimmy's display and find out more about him and his projects, things like that.
Yeah, could I ask about like I guess kind of the UX of the app that you had in mind? If it's like so when you tap like or open up the app initially, you like get a page and then you see like the main like I guess like documentary and you can press play and then below it like I guess like how were you thinking to structure like all this?
So we have some UX folks in the project, so we'll kind of definitely throw it to them. I think the simplest thing to do would be just open a window with like, here's the shared vision thing, and here's the stories or whatever we call those things. So like here's the big thing, and here's the other things. Um, Tapping on that could trigger the, hide the window, go into the immersive space, things like that.
Okay, so it's like the main like video and then below it like I guess like what else did you have like in mind like kind of like that idea of like the immersive like of the different stories.
So like the main shared vision documentary plus the individual stories would be the other section.
Okay.
And that could be broken out by a couple different ways. It could be like by person slash company. It could also be more topical based. So like maybe these 10 people really dove into speculative future about Vision Pro, and these 10 people really talked more about what they're building now. We could also do it based on like format and technology. So like here's the collection of spatial video, and here's the collection of immersive video, and here's the collection of uh, 360 videos that we did, like things like that. Um, so I think that it could just be, I think that the secondary part of the app could just be a library. And I don't necessarily think we have to release all of those at once. And it may actually be a fun way to, if we can get the app far enough along, we could have like a promo or a teaser version of the shared vision thing that's only like 2 or 3 minutes long. We could start releasing some of those profiles or individual stories every couple of weeks as we're working on the project to keep people interested. So there's always something new. And then as we work towards some kind of launch date for the full documentary project, we could kind of coordinate that. But I think, if there's 60, 70 people in the project, that's 60 to 70 individual videos that we could have. And some of those could be, um, I don't think very many of them would be Apple Immersive Video, but you never know. Um, I think we should probably I think it would make sense to like try to keep the immersive video for like impactful things or for groups of people. So like if there are 4 or 5 people who can get together in Paris or New York and film together, I think that would be super impactful. I don't want to take an immersive video of just me in my office talking. Like that would just be kind of an abuse of the technology. Um,
And that
$35,000 webcam.
yeah.
right. Well, and that kind of goes to what you were saying is like instead of it being like personal, well, it could be personal stories, but those sub articles turn into like profiles, right? So you're just releasing like categories of profiles. So it's a developer profile or it's a team event perspective, or like it gives it's very malleable, I
Mhm.
guess, in that those secondary systems. So I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
Could it make sense to perhaps nominate, like we come up with, say, 3 to 5 categories, we nominate an individual or team who's going to be the proof of concept for each category. So you could develop a template and then know how to iterate based on that. And if we all are then focusing on putting their story forward in the best way possible, we'll all collectively do maybe a better job and less is more. And
Okay.
um,
Yeah, that would be good. Particularly if we pick across what were you envisioning for those categories? Are you thinking like the type of people making like contributing, like focusing on a developer versus a filmmaker versus an enthusiast, or are you thinking more like the questions that we were talking about?
those could work. Also, just different kinds of experiences that are created for the platform.
Mhm.
And like there's some commerce experiences that are just delightful,
Yeah.
They're- which are different from games, which is different from a video. And so find the maker who could speak to that category in a way that would be engaging. And also, like if we could somehow if we could have the rights and the code to incorporate to demo what it is they're talking about. So it'd be like stepping inside of the director's commentary.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's what you're talking about. Like a nonlinear demonstration of the experience in their app, but within this, but you get to hear them talk about it or see them talk about it.
Potentially. Yeah, I hadn't really considered like in-app footage necessarily. I was thinking more of like the creator of the app. Um,
If it's just someone talking and that's all, then you have no B-roll. And so
yeah.
much of this is about like the interactivity, right? So, and that it's 3D and 6 DoF, right? So if you can't experience that and you're just watching a 2D representation of a person talking about this other thing that you can't experience, how engaging is it?
Yeah. So we'll have to figure out how to capture stuff like that. So, if I have, I'll just use myself as an example because this is not something we should put in the documentary. But I have made Project Graveyard my little side project instead of volume, and if I want to show that off in video form, I really have 2 options. I can record in the headset with the foveated capture, and I can do a voiceover as I go, or I can use Reality Composer Pro in short bursts and then narrate it later. But I'm gonna have to decide, am I showing you my office? Am I showing you one of Apple's immersive spaces? Um, how do I move around? How do I gesture to that? Things like that. Um, and this can be different for, soothing voids would be like, it would be really good B-roll. Um, but like, how do we capture that in such a way that, because it's ultimately that capture is going to be a 2D video. I can't make a 3D video out of that. We like Spatial Media Toolkit, we could like upscale it and add some 3D effects and stuff to it. But um,
So I do have an idea, but I don't know how scalable it is. But like this whole idea is like, can we give, whenever that particular creator section is going, can we give them like a reality view that kind of spins up kind of their tiny version of their own app where they can contribute to the code. It's like, hey, here you go. Like for example, Boyd. So like when your thing is playing, the Boyds kind of show up, or some form of like reality view artifact that makes it immersive. And
Okay.
um,
Yeah, I don't know
it,
about whole app experiences, but I think like, pulling in
that's
models or interactions, like a little reality view that does a couple of animations or something. Like I'm thinking of
very
Matthew's
true.
campfire space where, while he's talking, he could be next to the campfire, but not necessarily the whole environment.
Okay.
Or that might end up having too many huge models for some folks, and that makes sense that those might be downloaded experiences, so that way we don't preload all those into the app. But
Mhm.
that's a good
Um,
idea.
Yeah,
I
it's definitely worth prototyping though.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking about the overall flow, and like I think one app that really comes to mind that executes well on this is like the D-Day app.
Hmm.
Uh, they've done really good job of like mixing different sort of video styles, and then they also had like some immersive things where you can like interact with like the objects within the experience. I was kind of thinking along those lines, kind of half-baked idea in my head, but like the main video, the 40-minute, 30-minute section is just like the single timeline,
Hmm.
and then you can go from start to finish as is and just watch it. And then this whole 40 minutes is basically stripped into like sections, and then you can jump to different sections, and when you go to each section in some view, you see who the creators are, and then you can jump on their separate tracks
Hmm.
from there. So like when you, let's say at 35-minute mark, Mike is there's Mike's section, then you can learn about Mike. So you kind of go there. It's like, okay, meet the creator sort of, and then you kind of branch off from there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you have like the main timeline of the main video, and then everything kind of branches out depending on what section you are in.
Yeah.
And same thing could be like for if you pause the video at some point, you kind of show up like this is the creator and you can jump off of
Kind of like what was it, Amazon Video that has the X-ray feature where you
X-ray.
pause and you see all the metadata about this current scene. But
Gucci
going
has
going
that.
back to the other idea of like the artifacts, the D-Day Soldier was actually one of the things that inspired the project of like, this particular segment of the documentary is mostly going to be 2D video and spatial capture. So let's throw them in an immersive environment that could have some, something we either custom designed for the space or, maybe we're talking about relaxing experiences or something. So we show them, a little bit of soothing voids and a little bit of campfire space and a little bit of vibescape or things like that. So I think it would be kind of cool to, pop them into not necessarily the full version of soothing void, but like um, maybe like the void environment that you had, where it's just like, a simplified environment with a couple of the voids, like one school of voids floating by or something.
Hmm.
Um, I don't necessarily want to put people in the graveyard. That is that's that's not topical for this. That's not the vibe I'm going for with this project.
No, but it could become a good story, right? Like I think there are some interesting bits about like how we as a community overall feels, and covering that in the project is kind of important. Like for example, every time someone posts that Apple Vision Pro is dead, like how we all feel a visceral reaction from that. Like we should incorporate that in the documentary itself, like how our kind of like our well-being kind of depends on it, right? In a way, we kind of react to this. So it should be nice to experience that.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
would be a good question to have on the list. Like, how do you deal with the Vision Pro hate? Or,
yeah.
that could be a video all on its own.
I had someone. I posted uh, a silly video of my one of my windows falling apart. Um, just kind of a fun thing I made last winter, and I got a comment online. I couldn't even believe I was reading. Like, and this person said, "I can't believe you've thrown away everything that it means to be human." Like, how did you draw that conclusion from this silly little like 10-second clip? Like, have I betrayed humanity by making something funny?
I I block out social media. I was talking to Trump Krikorian the other day. I was like, man, you reply to every single post that is like calling out on like Apple Vision Pro is dead, and like, where do you get the energy for this, man?
Yeah. Yeah. I always, every time I see something like, oh, Tom will take care of this. I don't need to speak up. But yeah, I mean, I generally like, I don't respond to a lot of the hate or like, I don't feel a need to convince anybody to go get an Apple Vision Pro or to develop for it. I'm just trying to put out good stuff and like show people by action rather than convincing people. So it's one of the reasons I'm doing so much with Step and Division, and just putting out as much code as I can so that the folks who are here can have as much help and support as they want. So I think it's much more important to show rather than tell. I think Justin Ryan is a really good example of that. He has probably tried more apps than anybody else. Maybe Phil and him are kind of neck and neck. But Justin never really tells you this is why you absolutely need to drop what you're doing and go get this, and you're stupid for not having this. He just shows you what he likes about something. Like he's just this, I found this great thing and I just wanted to show it to you. Like he's not making a hard sell. I really admire that approach to things.
In that same vein, I welcome everyone to give demo. Like I give so many demos and do so much play testing with friends and stuff. That will raise your spirits up. Like the moment you put a new person into a Vision Pro and show them anything you're working on, you just like there's a magic there
I
that's like
love that.
very refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Like that's the best
Oh,
way to
it's
like turn a
so great.
non-video.
As
And
as
that's
a ki-
why I think as we're all probably doing that with our friends and family or whatever, you read some thing about Apple canceling it for the 37th time, and we all just go, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I've seen how much work's going into this thing. Like, it's not happening.
yeah, as a Canadian, I can tell you, I had to get an iPhone from San Francisco shipped up to me, and then I used it on my network up here, and I had to tell my cell provider it was a Palm Trio, so I could get a data plan for it. And then I used to go to Macworld for like 3 or 4 years, and I would be in San Francisco, and I'm looking like, where are the iPhones? They were nobody walked around with them. Nobody showed them. Even at the conference, you didn't see them very much. It wasn't until the iPhone 4 that it really became mainstream. So I mean, like we're talking about the second version of the Vision Pro right now. And the other thing I tell people, and you guys can appreciate this, but I tell people it's like having sex. Until you've had it, you won't know what it's like.
Two sides of the spectrum, one side with the one side totally talking about like how inhuman it is to wear Vision Pro versus like the other visceral experience over here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely like immersive technology in general is improved my life and made me more deliberate. I use my Vision Pro primarily for work, whether I'm working on stuff for Vision Pro or the rest of my job. It is my like ultimate focus machine. I can put it on open Mac Virtual Display and just do an incredible amount of work in 2 or 3 hours. And I get something special about being in a different place, even though I'm not physically going anywhere, and then being able to leave that and leave my work behind in that kind of that other place and get on with the rest of my life. So I think it's great. And then I work on dumb stuff.
Reach.
Going back to you mentioning getting started, I did like Sam's idea of like nominating to create this proof of concept, kind of like a vertical slice in a game. And
Okay.
that's somewhere we can probably like get started. Who wants to like maybe just film about what I like about coffee cups or what do I like about Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Maybe film something and create a little
A little bit of test
vignette.
footage.
Yeah, something like that, and then see how that feels. We can all like come together, review it. It's kind of like a little game jam where every dev makes a thing, comes back together, then we all look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
But yeah, next week's probably going to be busy as well because there's that event, but I think it would also be a good time to try and tell people about this project, recruit them, and
Mhm.
let them know, and then maybe hear really snooty filmmakers from Hollywood say, "Oh, that's not going to be successful," and someone's like, "Oh, that's so cool." I don't know. I think it's going to be a mix of interesting people
Mhm.
in that event.
Yeah. So one thing I think we can do whenever we get done with this project, when we get a uh, the 20 to 40 minute experience, obviously I think we can release it on the App Store, but I think we could go to conferences and we could send 2 or 3 people to Let's Vision or Reality Hack or things like that and just like do some demos and show people like, hey, this is the community and the enthusiasm that we captured, and here's the story.
There's a section in Tribeca for this segment. There's also one in Sundance,
Mhm.
and depending on when we can have something, that's something we can sort of send over
Mhm.
to submit there as well, which I uh, am interested in, like wanting to submit it there.
Mhm. Yeah, that'd be incredible. Yeah, I mean, the main thing I want us to do is just kind of capture the energy because, like, these are the good old days of this ecosystem. And I want, when there are 40,000 Vision OS developers, I want them to know about the thousand of us that have been here the whole time and like haven't given up and haven't just like read some rumors and thrown the headset in the closet and, just been making incremental progress every day.
Yeah, I'll try and get as much footage as I can from this event because that is a good idea to be documenting all these early years. There's already been a bunch of events, and I wasn't even thinking about getting B-roll or anything like that. So now I'm gonna start trying to film everything I can that has to do with immersive tech.
I know
Yeah.
how we get B-roll. Um, we take a friend to the Apple Store, book them the demo, and then we take some footage of them getting the demo at the Apple Store.
Yeah.
Get a nice pristine environment with great lighting. And
We can also reach out to Apple as well and use the developer center to shoot some film, like shoot some B-roll.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got the developer center that they're hosting the event at that's in Cupertino, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then they've also got one they've been inviting people to in London
Mhm. Yeah.
and hosting many events. Yeah, I'm not sure how much, like, if any of you have contacts at Apple and want to get them involved, please do. I'm not sure how much of a voice I have there yet, but I'm working
I
on it.
used to work for Serenity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I can ping some people at Apple.
That'd be awesome.
Contacts over at Singapore, so he's familiar with the project already. So
Mhm.
I think once we gather the team in Asia, then that can be like maybe where they could film or somewhere nearby as
Mhm.
well. Yeah, and they have access to a cam as well.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a developer relationship center or something in Singapore. And yeah, I have been there many times.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is the
Filming with your immersive camera over there.
I know. I was thinking the same thing.
No, it's not actually the immersive. It's also saying 12K. Well, and we got a custom lens from the Canon RF 5.2.
Is that the Pixies?
Cool.
No, the Ultra Cine.
Oh, yeah, the Ultra Cine. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And the Canon lens is working pretty well on there
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
the
It's working
good
fine.
adapter, probably.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So I'm actually like developing like a real-time monitoring app, Vision Pro. So kind of I just plug in the camera and the Vision Pro together, and I can watch the immersive video in real time.
Sweet.
But
Have, I'll
Awesome.
definitely hit you up later. I've been kind of working on something similar. Just how we can get camera feeds, HDMI, SDI. How can we get that stuff in here now? And we
Yeah.
can, it's possible.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Something else that just occurred to me in terms of B-roll, we may want to reach out to like the folks at Vision Hack and Reality Hack and other events that have happened over the last year and see like, is there anything we can use? Anything we can include, obviously with permission of the people involved.
Vision Act, a lot of folks, that was the one like 2024, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of folks that were recording on their headsets, I remember. I also filmed there was a group photo I filmed with my headset before we all went to take the photo.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know about rights about copying, but you're definitely open to use that footage if as well.
Yeah, we should definitely find out.
And Takuzen out in Tokyo, they made a whole immersive 180 highlight video of their hackathon, the Tokyo Hackathon. So he's got a lot of connections and film. He's got an R5C too. So we've got some eyes on the ground in Tokyo if we need to. I should ask him if he would be willing to put that immersive video on this app, because that's definitely an experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and if we get the app streaming different content, then this could be like the app doesn't have to be called Shared Visions. The app could deliver Shared Visions and the profiles and other stuff. Like it could be just a community app that is about, it's still topically about the Vision OS ecosystem, but doesn't necessarily have to exclusively be our like this project stuff. It could be, oh, we're having a hackathon in XYZ region. Let's capture some footage and upload that. The other thing we can think about in terms of working together, we've got the Discord and we've got headsets. We can do spatial FaceTimes in small groups. We can do Zoom meetings like this. The folks at InSpace, the community manager, is part of the project as well. And she's invited us to just create rooms there so we can have like a persistent, we can have like the editing bay where it's not necessarily full of the videos, but like a place to go, meet with the editors about your footage and leave notes and things like that. I don't know how many of you have tried InSpace, but it is one of the more impressive apps on Vision Pro. It is
Is that
incredible.
Lisa who you're talking
with
about?
Lisa.
Yeah.
Guys, I have to drop for my kids' soccer practice, but it was great chatting.
Awesome.
Too,
Good to
man.
hear.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Bye.
So,
Yeah, so in terms of short-term stuff, let's start thinking about some test footage and like prototyping. Let me make a couple of to-do items for myself. In the short term, I will make like a Google Drive that we can upload some stuff to. I'll get us like a terabyte there. And I'll work with Mike to see about the rest of it.
Can gather the writing team to start creating questions and a direction we can start like pointing the ship on.
Mhm.
That would be helpful because it can also reinform our prototypes and our vertical slice. So the writing team and the concept team. So that way, I think you had those ideas and we can start.
Mhm. So I think what we can do is if I make a Google account that's just like a separate account for this stuff, we can hand that out to a couple of stakeholders. And we can use that as like, oh, let's make a new GitHub repository. We use that Google's Gmail to set up that account, things like that. So we'll obviously need at least a place to like share the video files, probably share notes and a GitHub repo to share code. It'll probably be good to have one of our senior devs like kind of own the project from a code review / like pull request standpoint, like maybe Mike or John or someone like that. Someone not me. I work alone. I don't have any experience with big teams of developers. So yeah, I will So I'll set up the Google account. I'll work with someone to set up some kind of repo, or I'll make something short term. We'll start pinging the writing folks, but in short term, the next kind of step will be getting this meeting and these meeting notes to the rest of the folks here, and then working with some folks to host a few more meetings like this to kind of gather more ideas. I don't want necessarily just those of us here today making decisions for everybody. I think we want to like tell them about our discussion and have everybody kind of weigh in on it as well. So, but yeah, I definitely like the idea of like let's get some minimal footage so we can start prototyping the pipeline, but also prototyping in the app of like, okay, we've got 3 spatial clips and a 2D clip and you know 180 video, even though even if it's not Apple immersive quality, just like 3 things, and let's like work on a timeline to transition seamlessly between those. How are we going to do that with entities and timelines, things like that? How are we going to add sub captions?
Yeah, and also probably just have like a shell of like the actual app itself, like having like the placeholders, even if we need to, of where like these videos and stuff will go.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
I wish I would have thought about this last week when Amazon was running all those specials. I could have snagged a couple like 12 or 16 terabyte drives for a couple $100 cheaper, but it looks like I mean, like I said, I've got a big like 12 bay NAS hooked up to our gigabit up and down fiber at the shop. And I'm just looking right now for the notes. It looks like if we could put together a $400 to $500 community pot, we could get a couple drives and throw them into that NAS and just not have to pay the 3 cents a gig to Amazon S3 or whatever, just for our own internal like sharing. So that's like, I think that's a pretty achievable goal for something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I've got to jump actually, but thank you, Joseph, for organizing this. And really, it's an honor to be on a call with all of you. So look
Awesome.
forward to the next steps.
Awesome. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Cool.
Yeah, I got to jump too. Keep in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
There it is.
I think we reached a good point. I'm going to go ahead and
Yeah.
continue the recording.